بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. The chapter of Kitabul Fitan, the book regarding the trials that the Ummah will see. And the reason Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned is that in everyone you will see that he warned of something, and then sometimes he showed like the exit of something. Who will be the one who will survive it? Who will be the one who will fall in it? Many of the ahadith of fitan is narrated by the Sahabi called Hudhayfa bin Yaman radiyallahu anh. He says, when others would ask about good things, I was always the one asking about like difficulties. I always had the fear, what if I see those difficulties? And we mentioned previously that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then gave wordings that explained this fitan, then such words were used which was like Quranic words. That how the words of Quran could apply to every era. And the person of every era would say it was referring to this. And the answer will be no, it's referring to all. But such a unique word was used that it could fall on so many things. In the chapter of fitan you will see the same thing. That in every era something will happen and you can put one of those events or majority of the events in the chapter of Kitabul Fitan and it will work. This narration Huzaifa radiallahu anh says that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke to us about two things. I saw one and now I am waiting to see the other. The one that he saw was the good days, and what he was waiting to see was what was going to be called the bad days. The bad days was going to be the era of fitan. And who will get spoiled in the era of fitan? Who will not survive? So the crux of this hadith is Amanat. Amanat, what we normally say, trustworthiness. Can I trust you? And we all know today that word trust itself is like a joke. Because as soon as you tell someone, can I trust you, immediately he listens and he starts thinking, who am I to tell? That's how this word trust is. But once upon a time, trust had a very big meaning in it. Very big meaning. But what it had to do with fitan? It was mentioned in this hadith to show that in the era of trials, whether in the trial we're going through now or in the past, whether it was the trials where the Muslims fought with Muslims, or it was where the evil enemy came and they destroyed Muslims. Who was the sellout and who was the one that stood firm? Who became a hypocrite, who remained strong? It was always based on this one word, who is trustworthy? Trustworthy one is to your deen, to your Allah. That there was always going to be a time a pretty girl would say, for me do it. Or the king would say, for me do it. Or one warrior will say, if you don't do it for me, I'll kill you or I'll kill your family. And there was one group who had such a level of amanat that they would say, we will die. It's in our blood. I only got one life. And they would say to their families that if you all have to die also for this, the truth, be ready to die. And for them it was a disgrace if anyone was a sellout. If ever they heard that my wife gave that amanat away because they told her we will kill your husband or your child, then when their husband would come home, he would say to her, I don't want to ever see you again. That you disgraced me now. How can I keep you as my wife? The son would say, Mommy, what did you do? I took a pledge that I will die for the truth. And you just sold that amanat. Meaning you had it secret by you. There were those who let their tongues be cut. But they said, I will not give it away. There were those that were made to go blind. They saw that eye going, but for them one trust was more important then. And there were those for their life. So this word amanat, it sounds like a small thing. Are you trustworthy? Think of this verse. Inna aradna al-amanata. Allah Tabarakala says, we presented this amanat. Amanat normally means deen, but what a word was used. Will you fulfill the trust? We presented it to the mountains. فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا.
Even the mountain said that, I will not manage to carry it. But there were people who Allah Ta'ala created, and they will be in every era. For them to hold this trust means everything. If it means that they will lose everything but the trust they have to keep, they'll say, I'll do it for the trust. If someone will say, and in recent times what was the hardest was what was known as blackmail. And it was in blackmail that many good people also sold themselves, their families, and their whole ummah. Because mistakes everyone makes. Everyone makes mistakes. But sometimes that man went to a certain place and one girl met him. So it was already a planned thing. She was going to go out with him. She was going to give her body to him. They were going to land up in a room. Everything was going to be taped. And then they were going to say to him, now do you want your family to learn about this? Obviously you won't. Do you want everyone to learn about it? So they say, we're not going to tell anyone. All you have to do is play our game. It's easy to say it, but the day that amanat comes, that trust. For a man to say that let me be disgraced in the world, but I'll never sell myself. But very few ever manage that. Very few. Aradna al-amana. So Huzaifa radiallahu anhu says, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about this amana. Now why me and you have to hear the narration? We're very far from amanat. Very far. We're so far in amanat, forget getting that gun to our head and then telling us, break your amanat. We break the amanat without the gun. Rather we have people putting the gun on our head and say, fulfill your amanat, and we still go the other way around. That the world has changed completely upside down. It is an amanat that even if a boy wants to look at something that's not right, a married man will say, it's the trust of my wife, I can't do it. Another woman comes and says, your wife is gone for holiday. No one will know what happened. He will even look and say, maybe you are the most beautiful, much more than my wife. But it's called an amanat. That when she left, she put me in the trust of Allah. And when I leave the house, I put her in the trust. Both of us are fulfilling amanat. I will not steal her izzat, her honor, her wealth. She won't steal mine. In the past, there were those women, if a man came and he wanted to rape that woman also, she would give her life, but she would say, I'll never let it happen. The trust my husband left by me. But the world went upside down. All of us went. That we lost amanat completely. To build it up now, you don't ever wait for one day when the gun comes. And then you think of this narration, you will say, kill me. That time no one will say kill. You start building it when the weights are very small. Weights are very small means in small things. Me and you have to see, can I be trustworthy? Meaning someone gave me a trust. Am I just like lax and relaxed? And it's a small thing. Or for me, it's a very big thing. Because if I can look after the small amanat, then I will look after the big amanat. What the big amanat means is, when it was mentioned in the chapter of fitan, and the beginning of this narration shows it, Allah has chosen amanat as the distinguishing trait for the mujaddids of the ummah. For the one who wants to take from Quran and Sunnah and to be its complete muhafiz, it got nothing to do with having a good brain, which the end of the narration will mention. It got nothing to do with having the muscle, where you say, I'm going to exercise from today so I'll be in his army. It has nothing to do with being very, very sharp, very handsome. Ma a'qalahu, ma ajladahu, ma azrafahu. It got nothing to do with being eloquent. They'll say, you heard his speech, what a speech he gave. What research he made. The narration will show it got to do that if you are trustworthy, you are trustworthy to the people around you, especially those who love you. You're trustworthy to yourself. You're trustworthy on small things. Some of those things me and you might laugh about. But there was a time where people went so much into this trust that we will say, you're overdoing it now. But they went in that level. Someone walked in a certain madrasa. As he walked, he saw one student. That one person, I think, just left. So the student was the last. So as soon as that person left, the student went and he blew out the candle. And then he lit the candle. He blew out the lantern and he lit the lantern. So for that Ustad, it was like, are you stupid or something? What you blew it out and then you lit it? So he said, no, that was the madrasa lantern. This is my lantern. Now that there's nobody here but me studying, it's not right that we use the madrasa one. So that Ustad looked at him and he told him that you got some ta'alluq with Moulana Ashraf Ali Tanwi. So he said, gee, he said, that's why only you people will do things like that. So what a level he took them. What a level. Amanat. Now, me and you will never dream of that. We'll even say you overdid it like. But Hazrat Tanwi Rahimullah, that amanat was so much. You'll hear the qissa that the people reached by him. So then he asked how you all came. So the person said, we came like this. And because my son is like a little smaller in size, so they said half price, like if he reaches this age. So Hazrat Tanwi Rahimullah said, then that's his age. He said, no, he's like 1 year older, but they can't pick it up. And he got so upset. But he said, you mean you paid half price, but he's not of that age? So in our ta'wilat, we will always say, like, there's a lot of ways, but Hazrat Tanwi had one usul, that if it can't trouble you in small things, it's not going to trouble you in big things. He took away khilafat. On that he took away the man's khilafat. The man got a shock. He said, Hazrat, make maaf, I won't do it again. He said, this is the second reason I'll never give you a khilafat. Because your maafi is like to say, please give me back my khilafat. Maybe he gave it to him later on, but what a thing it was. Very far for me and you. Very far. And if I give you all one example of amanat, then everyone will say, I'll never be the mujaddid. It's called our ma'mulat sheet. No one will be the mujaddid. And there you say, finish like. So Allah got a different system. In every era it's different. He's not going to take us to task for everything. Otherwise no one will survive. No one. But at least the narration is supposed to give me and you a feeling that sometimes we are very wrong. Very, very wrong. So we have hopes of high things, but we're not wanting to climb. And the person who wants to climb, he might climb so high that he might one day write the kitab on amanat and everyone will say, impossible. Can you be so ameen like that? When Allah wants a person to climb, He can. Mistakenly, this one pen came in my pocket. He's so worried about it. Another person will say, just see in the books of fiqh. They even write there, look at that which you know no one's worried about. Don't even bother. But this person will be like so worried. He'll go round and round looking for that one person. That amanat. So there's no limit of how high you can go. But what was so unique about amanat that the narration mentioned it like this? He said, Innal amanata nazalat fi jazari qulubi rijal. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, first it happened that amanat, it entered into the depths of the hearts of people. Crevices of the heart. It went into the root. He said, ثُمَّ عَلِمُوا مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Then they were able to understand this Qur'an. ثُمَّ عَلِمُوا مِنَ السُّنَّةِ. Then they were able to take from the Sunnah. So they write that what it meant Qur'an and Sunnah. Learning Qur'an and Sunnah, me and you also learn it. It got to do with the memory. It got nothing to do with amanat. The narration showed that nur of Qur'an and Sunnah, that meaning, that faham, it got nothing to do with the brain. It got to do with amanat. Are you trustworthy or not? In the imtihan, I want to get that last mark. And it's so easy, my friend, everyone can copy in the imtihan. Our imtihan, we made it such that we have many people walking around to tell you, don't copy. And we also know that it's very easy for you all to copy. So someone will say, why even have the imtihan? The imtihan is to teach you, don't copy. Don't copy. You'll do it one time, then you'll think at the ending, so I got the mark, then what? Then the imtihan is finished. But did I pass? Then the man must say to himself, actually I failed. Because it was only one mark. But for that one mark, I spoiled my name. I spoiled my name. My name is from the people of Amanat. That is the people of Quran and Sunnah. Why must I spoil it? Today in Mufidu Talibin, we read that one qissa. The end of Mufidu Talibin, those ajib waqiyat that come. So that one qissa was a bird and a crow. So this bird, he was mashhoor amongst the other birds, that this is like a truthful bird. So he and the crow, they went to the king of the birds, or the qadi of the birds, judge of the birds, to argue that there's a certain place where the water gathers. So the crow was saying, that's mine. And this bird was saying, that's mine. And then the Qadi, the judge, asked, you got any proof? So none had proof. So then the judge looked at the two, and everyone knows a crow is a crow. He steals everything. And the other bird was known, he doesn't speak a lie. So the judge gave it, that it's yours. So he looked at the judge and he said, but like, how did you give preference to my claim over his claim? He got no proof, I got no proof. The judge said it's famous amongst the people that this species of bird is a very truthful. He said there's a proverb also, that how truthful you are, more truthful than this bird also. And for the crow it's the opposite. So then that bird said, if that's the case, then I'll tell you that the crow actually is the owner of this water, not me. So the judge got upset, judge of the birds, and he said that, then why did you make this false claim? So he said, no, in anger. When I go to drink there, he pushes me away. So I got fed up with it. I said, I'll take you and I'll get this thing as mine. He says, but after that I understood that for this honor of having this title remain with me is better for me than 1,000 water wells. Better for me than 1,000 of these areas where water, just the honor of having the name stay with me. So for me and you, there's a word called Amanat. May Allah make it that sometimes something might happen. It might be a small thing. It's not easy. We live in a world where there's no Amanat. But at that time the person says that, there is a name, and he thinks of this verse, Inna aradna al-amanata ala samawati wal-ard wal-jibal. They couldn't manage. فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. Although the meaning of amanat is iman, but the word amanat is there. Can I hold this trust? And then the door of tajdeed opens up. Because if you can hold the small trust, you will be given the big trust. So amanat entered into the crevices of the heart. Then they understood Quran and Sunnah. Huzaifa radiallahu anhu says, then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned to us, an raf'il amana. How it will just disappear. So he said, Yanamur rajulun noma. Either one meaning of it is a man will just sleep. Sleep means, but the passing of time, nothing he'll really do. Because we know sleep is that there's no guna in sleep. So with the passing of time, amanat is just going to get less. Others have written, no, what it meant is man will fall into ghaflat. Ghaflat means he'll just become oblivious of amanat. It will be like a joke. If someone says, you cheated me, you betrayed me, he'll smile. For him to pull someone's stories out, for him to find someone's phone, see a message, send it out, it's a thrill for him. Even if he does haram, but the thrill to betray is a thrill. There are some boys who say to the girl, send me your picture. And she gets so thrilled, and he says to her, you don't send it to me, I will not talk to you again. So that girl now, she's moving around at night. But she doesn't understand, we don't live in the era of amanat. When that thing comes, does she really think that boy is Junaid Baghdadi? That he, once he gets her picture, he'll say that, how can I break this trust? He asked her for that haram. You think he's going to worry about amanat now? So even if at that time she tells him, you take qasam on Allah, you won't send it. You take 100 qasams. He's not bothered about qasams. But that girl also will think the zamana of amanat is over. For him it's a joke to betray the amanat. We live in that era. Where you find something wrong about someone, it's a thrill. That the trust must be betrayed. That's the thrill of the era. So much of ghaflat regarding the strait of amanat, فَيَنَامُ الرَّجُلُ النَّوْمَ. Man will just sleep, فَتُقْبَدُ الْأَمَانَةِ, and it will be lifted. When it is lifted, فَيَظَلُّ أَثَرُهَا مِثْلَ الْوَقْتِ. Waqtun means something like a small change of color. Because if that nur comes out, amanat got its own nur. So when that nur is lifted, then you're going to have a slight color change, meaning darkness. So the wording of the narration means the asar, the trace of it will remain for a while. Like how, example, you played in the carpet and for a while it remains. But then it goes away again and the carpet comes normal. So it will just remain for a while, that athar, that there was amanat here and something else now took over. Which they write in the commentaries as though there was light here and now that darkness came over. Or the person was very bright and now you can see that there's a slight color change. So you will pick it up. But still it's small. Then he says, وَيَثُمَّ يَنَامُ الرَّجُلُ النَّوْمَ. Then again man will fall into ghaflat. So it doesn't just go. It means you're oblivious for years that there is something called amanat. فَتُقْبَدُ. And again it will be taken. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, but now when it's taken, it's not just going to be like a color change and then it just came normal again. He said, فَيَبْقَى أَثَرُهَا. There it was, فَيَظَلُّ. It remains for a while. Like a small athar. And then it goes normal again. But now, يَبْقَى أَثَرُهَا. Now it remains. مِثْلَ الْمَجْلِ. He says, very similar to, example, you take your finger and you get burnt. Then the thing will start now blowing up. It gets big, but inside there's nothing but, not there's nothing in it, there's nothing good in it. It's painful, it looks big, and inside if you break it also nothing beneficial comes out. فَيَبْقَى أَثَرُهَا. He says, now the athar will remain like that boil that came out, or that bloating on the finger. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave the example also. He said, كَجَمْرٍ دَحْرَجْتَهُ عَلَى رِجْلِكَ. You were walking and there was that coal that someone had used for a braai. So you can't see the fire in it, but it's still in it. And you had your sandal on, so your toe was showing, and you kicked it. You thought it was a dead. You never understood the fire was there and you burnt. فَنَفِطَ. Then your toe just starts getting that swell. فَتَرَاهُ مُنْتَبِرًا. And you see it blowing up. But inside you yourself know, وَلَيْسَ فِيهِ شَيْءٌ. Empty. But now فَيَبْقَى. Because now when you look at that, you also pick it up. That you got an ugly spot on your body, and you also know inside that spot there's nothing, but the spot is not going away. Now its asar is remaining. That's called level 2 of an amanat. Meaning betraying, which is an inside of emptiness, is your habit now. You can't get rid of it. It becomes your adat. The thing is living with you. If you break it also, you know pus is going to come out. And then it can get worse after that also. And then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, فَيُصْبِحُ النَّاسِ. A time will come where people will do business. فَلَا يُؤَدِّ الْأَمَانَةِ. فَلَا يَكَادُ أَحَدٌ أَن يُؤَدِّ الْأَمَانَةِ. When he spoke about business, means you're making your money. When you're making your money, what's the need to pull extra? You got enough. But just because of this, to cheat. Just to cheat. Whether you go in the car business, the first thing they'll tell you, principal, my friend here, don't be too pious. Because if you're going to tell the person, you know, the tires here, this here got this problem, I think this one had an accident, no one's going to buy from you. So there, even if you see the fault, you have to keep quiet. But there was a time of amanat where it was the total opposite. Where the fuqaha were also traders. So they would tell their workers that you see this one garment that came, this garment got a fault. But very few people will pick it up. But if someone wants to buy this thing, I want you to show him where that fault is. They were the same fuqaha who also mentioned, if the man says, I am bari, bara'a min kulli aibin, meaning I sell it as is. And they were the ones who said that business will go through. And later on, if the man comes back and he says, you never told me about this, then the qadi will say that I can't force him to take it back. They were the ones who gave that fatwa. But in their amal, it was the complete opposite. They would say to their worker, you will tell him what the fault is. So the imam comes back and he sees that the thing is gone. First worry. We will be like, hey, finally it's gone. First worry. Who bought this? Did you say to the customer? So that worker said, I forgot. That one sentence, I forgot. He said, who's the customer? They couldn't find the customer. All that profits that was made concerning that entire, he said, give everything in sadaqah. Because where that sent, even that me and you own, do we'll work out, okay, this one came, so The money is not everywhere. They were on a different level once upon a time. The whole thing changed. And the era came to make ta'wil that wherever it's haram, somehow I will make it halal. In their zamana it was the opposite. If 50 mufti said halal, but they would say, but for me it's haram. I will not do it. A level of amanat. Very far it was in that era. One ustad of Darul Uloom Deoband, they sent him to a certain place to collect. So the money that he collected got stolen. So when the news reached the madrasa, before they could even go and tell him that don't worry, and that he had already collected that money. From his own side, that amount that he collected, now he wanted to pay the madrasa. But even he knows the masala, we all know the masala, amanat. Normally you tell the madrasa, my bag got stolen, pay for the bag. He was worried of that amount. So who else's fatwa could have helped? Moulana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi wrote to him that this is an amanat, you're not responsible for it. There was no excess from your side, you were not negligent in any way. So the alim, when they showed him that paper, he just got upset. And he said, go and ask Hazrat Gangohi, if it happened to him, then would he have given this fatwa? So he says he wants to make everything halal for me. All the haram for me halal. What about him? He wouldn't have done it. They were like that. He said, go ask him, if it happened to him, what would he do? Now, me and you, we're very far from that. Why we mention it, let's start climbing. The narration spoke of an amanat. He said, people will do business, فَلَا يُؤَدِّي فَلَا يَكَادُ أَحَدٌ يُؤَدِّي الْأَمَانَةِ. Not even one person will be. He said, until a time will come where يُقَالُ, people will start saying, إِنَّ فِي بَنِي فُلَانٍ. In a certain tribe if you go, رَجُلًا أَمِينًا. He said, there you will find one man you can trust. That narration also gave glimmer of hope. It means in whichever era we come, there will always be one man who will be called Rajulan Aminan at least. At least let's make that dua that Allah let me be that man. Rajulan Aminan. I don't break people's trust. I worry about the small, then I have a hope Allah will put the big trust in my hand. That you looked after small things, I think you're worthy of looking after the big. And then Nabi also mentioned, وَيُقَالُ لِلرَّجُلِ. In that era, when people will praise, they will say, مَا أَجْلَدَهُ. How strong he is. مَا أَظْرَفَهُ. مَا أَعْقَلَهُ. What a mind he got. They will say how intelligent he is. You won't hear anyone saying how trustworthy, because there won't be anyone trustworthy. When they praise this word trustworthy, you won't talk about it. He says, وَلَيْسَ فِي قَلْبِهِ مِثْقَالُ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ. Supposed to be min amana. Hadith mentioned, and in his heart there will not be like that small seed, the weight of a small seed. The wording would have ended min amana, of amana. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said min iman, of iman. So they write that how he ended that, where you were waiting for the word amanat, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam put the word iman there. That he said, if that amanat is gone, then in your heart I don't really see the athar or the sign of any iman. Which another narration he said, La iman liman la amanata lah. He said in his heart there will not be any, where you were waiting for the word amanat, he said there won't be any iman. Meaning that mu'min who said he's a Muslim, mu'min, I looked in his heart, I found no amanat. I said, where's your iman gone? So very high amanat, very high, but it's the one who picks up small amanats. That Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, isn't he deserving now to look after big amanats? May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us all min rajulin aminin, from those that were trustworthy from the beginning, trustworthy in the end. In the small ones we fulfill amanat, in the big ones we fulfill the amanat of people, their wealth, the trust they put in us, the amanat of our asatiza, our mashayikh, the amanat of our Quran and our sunnah, the amanat of our deen. Then there's one amanat where Allah Tabarak Ta'ala said, Alastu bi Rabbikum. And everyone said, why not? What a question. It's called the Ahad Mithaqi, that I made a very big promise, that amanat. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us all from those who fulfill all amanat. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.